Welcome to Atmospheric Lights. Today we're diving into some pretty fascinating information about drone activity,
Oh,
and especially over sensitive areas.
okay.
We're going to be breaking down a conversation with Lue Elizondo. He was a former intelligence officer and a counterintelligence special agent,
Right.
interviewed by Chris Cuomo. And his background and experience with the Pentagon's AATIP, that's the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program,
Right.
really make his observations worth considering.
Absolutely. What's really interesting is Elizondo's emphasis on using a scientific methodology. He doesn't just throw out wild theories. He really digs into the data.
Yeah.
And he lays out a framework for figuring out what makes genuinely unexplained aerial phenomena different from conventional aircraft or drones.
Yeah, that's a great point. So he actually lays out 5 key characteristics that distinguish these truly anomalous UAPs.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is the ability to withstand extreme G-forces. We're talking way beyond anything human pilots or even the most advanced aircraft can handle.
Right.
He gives the example of an F-16, which, might max out at 16 or 17 Gs before structural failure.
Mm-hmm.
But we're talking about objects enduring potentially thousands of Gs,
Wow.
forces that would just crush conventional aircraft.
Yeah. So, another characteristic is this hypersonic velocity, but it's coupled with incredibly sharp maneuvers.
Right.
To put this in perspective, think about the SR-71 Blackbird. It's a reconnaissance aircraft capable of reaching Mach 3,
Oh, wow.
even at that speed. It requires a huge turning radius. And the UAPs Elizondo describes are making almost instantaneous right-angle turns
Right.
at speeds that would make the Blackbird look like it's standing still.
It's wild.
Mm.
And it's not just about speed and maneuverability. He also talks about low observability, meaning these objects are really difficult to detect on radar.
Yeah.
And then this thing called transmedium travel. This is the ability to seamlessly transition between air, water, and even space.
Wow.
Imagine seeing something disappear into the ocean, only to reemerge in the sky moments later.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. So let's get into this drone mystery that Elizondo presents. We're seeing, a significant uptick in drone activity, often occurring at night, over really sensitive locations, military bases, critical infrastructure, even nuclear facilities.
Wow.
And what's especially concerning is the nature of these drones.
Yeah, we're not talking about your average off-the-shelf consumer drones here. Some are described as being larger than SUVs,
Wow.
with advanced capabilities.
Yeah.
That suggests a level of technological sophistication that's beyond anything commercially available.
Yeah.
Think about drones that can stay airborne for hours, operating far beyond the visual range of their operators,
Wow.
potentially transmitting real-time video back to an unknown source.
That's concerning. And what really fuels public distrust and speculation is the lack of government transparency, even outright denial.
Right.
Despite the obvious security implications of this activity,
Yeah.
this lack of clear communication creates a vacuum, and it's quickly filled by misinformation and conjecture.
So how does Elizondo make sense of all of this? Well, he systematically goes through various hypotheses, carefully ruling out possibilities, based on the evidence or lack thereof. He first addresses whether these drones could belong to foreign adversaries.
Right. Given the scale and sophistication of this drone activity, Elizondo finds that scenario logistically implausible. Maintaining, deploying, and retrieving these advanced drones across such a vast area would be incredibly difficult for any foreign power to pull off undetected. It would require a massive infrastructure and logistical footprint, something intelligence agencies would likely detect.
Yeah, it would be pretty obvious. He then considers the possibility that these drones are being used for WMD detection, perhaps searching for radiological, chemical, or biological threats.
Interesting.
While the technology itself is conceivable, Elizondo argues against this, based on the lack of appropriate emergency response.
Okay, so think about a break-and-arrow situation. This term refers to an accident involving nuclear weapons. If these drones were detecting a real WMD threat, we would expect to see a swift and massive coordinated response involving specialized units, hazmat teams, the National Guard, perhaps even evacuations.
Makes sense.
But that's not what we're observing. This discrepancy leads Elizondo to consider another more intriguing possibility. So could these drones actually be a U.S. response to even more anomalous UAPs? The kind exhibiting those 5 key characteristics we talked about earlier.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, this idea kind of suggests a scenario where conventional drones are sent out to investigate these phenomena that are beyond our current understanding.
So they're like our first line of defense against the unknown.
Exactly. Elizondo even mentions some anecdotal evidence of these drones, kind of failing to intercept or interact with those more unexplained lights, almost as if they are outmatched.
Wow, so it's like a layered mystery here. Drones investigating something even stranger.
Right.
Elizondo also explores some other explanations. Less likely, but still possible. Could this be like a rogue contractor, illegally showing off advanced drone capabilities?
Well, that's a possibility. It would involve a contractor violating numerous laws and regulations to demonstrate their technological prowess, maybe hoping to gain attention or secure some lucrative government contracts.
So basically showing off to get a bigger paycheck.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
He connects this possibility to the Ukraine war, highlighting how drone technology advancements have become a game changer on the battlefield,
Oh, yeah.
and how certain actors might be tempted to exploit that for their own gain.
That makes sense. But, whatever the explanation is, the lack of government clarity on this issue creates a vacuum that's being filled with speculation and misinformation, particularly on social media.
Oh, absolutely.
Elizondo points out the inherent contradiction of the government telling the public, don't worry, while events suggest otherwise.
Yeah, you can't really tell people not to worry when there's clearly something going on.
Right, it just erodes public trust.
Exactly, and it fuels these alternative explanations, some of which can be quite outlandish.
Yeah, you see all sorts of theories floating around online.
And social media, with its rapid-fire information sharing and tendency towards sensationalism, just exacerbates this problem.
It's like a breeding ground for misinformation.
Elizondo and Cuomo both observe how social media platforms incentivize these extreme viewpoints and emotional responses, often at the expense of accuracy and nuance.
Yeah, it's all about getting clicks and engagement.
Yeah.
Not necessarily about spreading truth.
Right.
They talk about how social media amplifies distrust
Yeah?
and hinders rational discourse.
It's really become a problem.
This everyone is a victim mentality makes it difficult to even have a balanced conversation about complex issues.
Absolutely.
People are so quick to take offense or dismiss opposing viewpoints that it leads to a breakdown in communication and understanding.
Yeah, you can't even have a civil discussion anymore. Elizondo shares a striking analogy to illustrate this dynamic.
Oh, really?
He compares it to a small dog constantly pestering a larger dog.
Okay. The small dog will keep nipping and annoying the bigger one. But as soon as the bigger dog retaliates, the small dog plays the victim.
I see what he's getting at.
It's a perfect illustration of how social media can be used to manipulate perceptions and avoid accountability.
It's all about controlling the narrative.
And this relates back to the drone mystery, because the lack of transparency and official information allows speculation and these emotionally charged narratives to dominate the conversation, making it harder to separate fact from fiction.
It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack.
Elizondo then brings up the concept of cancel culture and how it contributes to this problem.
Yeah, cancel culture definitely has an impact on free speech.
People are afraid to express dissenting opinions or challenge prevailing narratives for fear of being attacked or ostracized online.
It creates a chilling effect on open dialogue.
Which is essential for a healthy democracy.
That's a great point. Elizondo's conversation with Cuomo then shifts to the concerning concentration of drone activity in New Jersey.
Right. New Jersey seems to be a hotspot for this activity.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Elizondo suggests that the state's unique combination of sensitive infrastructure, geography, and proximity to major population centers makes it an attractive target for this type of activity.
That makes sense. New Jersey has so much going on.
Think about it. New Jersey has major ports, critical transportation hubs, numerous military installations, and it's close to major financial centers like New York City.
Right, it's a hub for so many things.
This concentration of vital assets, coupled with its diverse geography, makes it a complex and potentially vulnerable landscape.
It's like a perfect storm of factors.
And Elizondo also touches on the generational shift and how we consume and share information.
Yeah, how has that changed things?
Well, he contrasts his father's generation, where there was a clear sense of right and wrong and consequences for bad behavior.
Right, there's more accountability back then.
With what he sees as a growing sense of entitlement and a lack of accountability online.
Yeah, it's like anything goes in the digital world.
And this observation ties into the erosion of trust and the rise of misinformation in an environment where anyone can publish anything, and algorithms prioritize engagement over accuracy. It becomes increasingly difficult to discern truth from falsehood.
It's like we're drowning in information, but starving for truth.
He specifically mentions social media algorithms and how they might be contributing to this problem.
Oh yeah, the algorithms are definitely playing a role.
He notes that TikTok algorithms in China reportedly encourage positive behavior.
Interesting.
While in the U.S., algorithms seem to reward outrage and negativity.
Wow, that's a stark contrast.
This difference suggests that social media platforms can be designed to promote specific types of content and behavior.
So they're not just neutral platforms.
Right. If algorithms prioritize content that generates strong emotional reactions, such as anger or fear, then it's not surprising that we see so much outrage and division online.
It's like they're profiting off of our negativity.
And this negativity makes it even harder to have a rational conversation about complex and nuanced issues like the drone mystery.
It's like we're constantly being pulled in different directions.
It creates a climate of fear and suspicion, making it difficult to engage in meaningful dialogue and explore different perspectives. And, Elizondo also touches on the role of mainstream media in shaping public perception.
Yeah. How do they fit into all of this?
He expresses concern that the media is becoming more like social media, prioritizing sensationalism and catering to pre-existing biases rather than challenging viewers to think critically.
It's like they're more interested in entertainment than informing the public.
He even mentions being labeled a conspiracy theorist by some media outlets simply because he's willing to discuss topics that fall outside the conventional narrative.
It's ironic considering his background.
Right. It just highlights the challenges of having open and honest conversations about complex issues.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to shut down any dissenting voices.
When legitimate questions and concerns are dismissed as conspiracy theories, it stifles genuine inquiry and reinforces the status quo.
It's like they're afraid of the truth.
Then he shares a thought-provoking anecdote about his father.
Oh, really? What about him?
His father was a Bay of Pigs veteran and former prisoner of war.
Wow, that's quite a background.
Elizondo once asked his father what he thought was the greatest threat to humanity. And his father's response was corruption.
Corruption.
And he didn't just mean financial corruption. He defined corruption as the act of trading away one of your core values in exchange for something else.
So it's a much broader definition.
Yeah, this broader definition encompasses the erosion of integrity, honesty, and a commitment to the common good.
So it's about a decline in our values as a society.
Exactly.
And this idea of corruption as a betrayal of values ties back into the discussion about social media, the lack of government transparency, and the drone mystery itself.
It's all connected.
When individuals or institutions prioritize personal gain, ideology, or maintaining control over truth and accountability, it creates a breeding ground for distrust and undermines the foundations of a just and equitable society.
It's like we're eroding the very fabric of our society.
So what can we do about it?
Well, Elizondo and Cuomo also discuss how individuals can navigate this complex information landscape. Elizondo mentions a colleague, a Nobel Prize nominee,
Wow.
who advised him to block early and block often when dealing with negativity and disrespect online.
That's interesting advice.
While this might seem counterintuitive to those who value open dialogue, it highlights the importance of self-preservation and setting boundaries in the digital age.
It's like protecting your mental health.
Exactly. Constant exposure to online toxicity can be mentally and emotionally draining, and it can hinder constructive conversations.
So it's about choosing your battles.
Elizondo stresses that we need to be more discerning consumers of information.
Yeah, we can't just believe everything we read online.
We should question the motivations behind the content we consume. Seek out diverse perspectives and be wary of echo chambers that reinforce our existing beliefs without challenge.
It's about being critical thinkers.
Exactly.
And this critical thinking applies not only to social media, but to all forms of media.
Right.
We need to develop a healthy skepticism and a willingness to engage with information that might challenge our preconceived notions.
It's about being open-minded.
He also emphasizes the importance of civic engagement.
Yes, we can't just sit back and complain.
We have a responsibility to hold our leaders accountable, demand transparency from those in power, and participate in the democratic process.
It's about taking action.
It's a call to action that resonates deeply, especially in light of the concerning drone activity and the lack of government transparency surrounding it.
We can't simply sit back and wait for someone else to solve these problems.
We all have a role to play in shaping a better future.
Elizondo's father's warning about corruption serves as a reminder that the answers we seek may not lie solely in the skies above, but in the choices we make and the values we uphold here on Earth.
So it's not just about what's happening out there, but about who we are as individuals and as a society.
As we wrap up this deep dive into atmospheric lights, we hope it sparked your curiosity and encouraged you to engage in these crucial conversations.
The drone mystery is just one piece of a much larger puzzle.
It ultimately points to larger questions about technology, transparency, and the future of our society.
And as we navigate this increasingly complex world,
The need for critical thinking, open dialogue, and a commitment to truth has never been greater.
thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And until next time, keep looking up.